I'm honored to be given the opportunity to say a few words and tell a few stories about Bryan Murray. I had the privilege to play and work for and with Bryan for close to 13 years. To me, Bryan was more than just a coach or GM. He was a friend. He was loyal, kind, and a passionate person that truly cared for the people around him. I know I can speak for everyone that played for Bryan that would remember his sarcastic wit that kept you guessing whether he was joking or not, his dislike of referees, and his love of the game. He set the tone quickly when he first came to Ottawa. Our first team meeting of the season was filled with expectations and laughter. Towards the end of the meeting, he said, "If anyone gets caught with an illegal stick penalty, I'll go fire the equipment manager." We all laughed, and then he said it again. Needless to say, there were a few players that checked their sticks as soon as the meeting was over. His team meetings were awesome. Even when he was not happy with us, he could throw in that sarcastic wit that would make Mike Fisher giggle out loud. One of the best ones in Florida, he asked Fish, "Are you ever going to score again?" When Fish stopped laughing, he said, "No, seriously, are you?" Mike scored that night. Or in Dallas, when he was a GM, he told the goalies, "You're allowed to stop the puck," with a straight face. Even though we had smirks on our faces, the point always got across. Bryan's practices were very routine. We only had a handful of drills that we would do, and we did them every day. One morning skate, during a long winning streak, he mumbled one of his drills. We went to our positions and began. As soon as we started, he blew his whistle, brought us all in, and slammed his old wooden stick, and started yelling at us for doing it wrong and that we weren't focused. We better be ready for the game that night, and kicked us off the ice. I had a good laugh with our assistant coach at the time, John Paddock, because I could tell it was very rehearsed. But that was Bryan. He pushed for more when we were winning and was a calming influence when we were struggling. Oh yeah, we continued our winning streak that night. Speaking of that old wooden stick, if you ever missed a pass in practice, he would come up to you and try and swap sticks, and then go on a rant about how we should all be using wooden sticks instead of those fancy ones. That was Bryan. As I mentioned earlier, Bryan knew when to push and knew when to back off, as well as letting us get together for some team bonding. One night, Aaron and myself were hosting a Christmas party, the same night as the Senator's staff party. A few players stopped by the office party at Bryan's request, and he was quick to tell one player having a beer not to keep up with the other player because he was a, quote, professional. We had a good skate the next day, not because he was mad, because we needed a good sweat. He knew how important it was to have some fun. He was an honest man, and all he asked for was an honest effort. There was no question that when you played for Bryan, he had your back. I believe that many times he even knew he was in the wrong about arguing a call, but every player knew that we were in it together. Bryan really was what an open door policy was all about. As a coach or as a GM, good or bad, hockey or life, there was no topic that he could not handle. My final season, I did not play a single game due to injuries. It was a very frustrating year, to say the least. But looking back on it now, I was so fortunate to have the time to sit down with Bryan in the lounge, just have a coffee and talk about the game and where it's going, about Shawville, about cottage life, about beer, and most important, family. He always wanted to know about mine, and he always wanted to tell me about his. He adored Jerry, Brittany, Heidi, and of course his grandkids, Emma and Addie. I will cherish those talks forever. We'll miss you, Bryan.